Some message came. It is a live streamed.
Yeah, live stream. Start in a few minutes. So, Dr. Punit, you can share the screen.
Yes, sir. Just a minute.
Perfect. You can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we'll start in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let us get it going. Good evening, everyone. Both all the virtual audience today. This talk is online. Those audience who are on the Zoom as well as those on the YouTube, we welcome all of you virtually to TIFR for this, I would say, very special colloquium, asset colloquium today. Before I go and start introducing today's speakers, I would like to really thank on behalf of ASSET, Dr. KTV Reddy, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering and Technology from Datta Meghe Institute of Higher Learning, Higher Education and Research at Wardha, and also Dr. Qazi Syed Jahiruddin, both of them are actually there on the screen today, who is Director, R&D, Director of Research, Associate Dean, Global Health, DMI HER, who have been kind of instrumental in making this particular colloquium possible. All this started a few months ago when I happened to visit this place for giving a talk on the invitation of Dr. Reddy, and sort of, I can say, discovered this wonderful place where a very, very top-ranking research in this specific field of bone tissue engineering is being done. And I felt it is actually good to make them to speak and in some way introduce them to the ASET audience and also TFR community at large. And hence we have this particular colloquium planned today. So they're going to talk on the title, what it says, translatory research, bench to bedside. But as I said, most importantly, they're going to kind of give kind of insights into the innovation in the field of bone tissue engineering. Just a second, yeah. Osteochondral scaffold development, process the design by using 3D scanning and 3D printing, indigenous cranial flap fabrication, smart neonatal incubator, and all related kind of fields and their expertise in these particular areas. And of course, the main purpose is to demonstrate in this particular transformation of treatment, which is delivered to the patients. And they proudly kind of say that they have changed lives of almost about 40 to 50 patients and improved their living through various technological interventions. Today, we have two speakers going to give a colloquium. One, Dr. Punit Fulzele, who is Deputy Director of Research, Datta Meghe Institute of Higher Education and Research. And we also have Dr. Ashutosh Bagde, who is research scientist at the same place. I will take a couple of minutes to formally introduce both the speakers. Punit is the Vice Dean of IPR, Deputy Director of Research and Development, and Professor at the Department of Pedodontics, SPTC, Convener of BETIC Innovation Cell at DMI HER Innovation Council IPR Cell, and is Vice President of Institute of Innovation Council at the Datta Meghe Institute. He's an expert in the field of medtech innovations and public health technology, and he has over 50 publications in peer-reviewed journals. But as I mentioned above, he's also in charge of IPR, so he actually ended up, kind of facilitated filing of large number of national, international patents, as well as copyrights and so on under his leadership. To say a few words about Ashutosh Bagde, he is a medtech formulator. He has proficient skills in the medical device innovation process, 3D printing, 3D bioprinting, and material application, especially in the medical scenario with hands-on experience in tissue regeneration. He did his PhD dissertation on 3D printed scaffold for drug delivery and bone tissue regeneration from VNIT Nagpur. And his area of interest is tissue engineering, drug delivery, 3D printing, bioprinting, biomaterials, medical device innovation, CAD, and so on. I think these are kind of topics that they are going to develop on. And right now he's working as an associate professor and research scientist at Datta Meghe Institute. And he's also co-founder of Atman Technovention Private Limited. So with this brief, I would say, profile introduction of both the speakers. So now I would like to hand over the podium to today's speakers, Dr. Punit and Ashutosh. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Satyanarayan for giving us the opportunity, and we were very fortunate to have him here and interact with him about the work which we are doing. And I'd like to equally thank Professor Reddy also, because of whom he was at our campus, and we got the opportunity to interact with sir when he was at Nagpur for the IEEE conference. And that actually all started our interaction with sir, and sir has been very, very forthcoming in supporting us in terms of various activities. And we thank him from the bottom of our heart for giving us the opportunity to be part of the ASAT forum at TIFR. So thank you so much, sir. At the outset, the presentation which we are going to do today it's basically showcasing the various projects which we are doing with our collaborators. So we'd like to thank our collaborators from Indian Institute of Science. Professor Kaushik is here. Then from IIT Kharagpur, Professor Dhara would be joining. IIT Mumbai, Professor Rupesh is there. IIT Nagpur, IIT Nagpur, Professor Professor Kuthe is there. So all these people have actually supported us and helped us to reach the milestones which we are trying to showcase here in today's presentation. So first of all, greetings from Datta Institute of Higher Education and Research. We are deemed to be university located central in the central India. We are about 70 kilometers from the 0 mile, which is located at Nagpur. So we are a rural hospital catering to as a tertiary center to the population of Wardha with state-of-the-art facilities for medical healthcare, as well as we have the School of Ayurveda, School of Nursing, School of Physiotherapy, and the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, among others. So this is the journey of for DMIHR. We started as a medical institute in 1990, and now over a period of course of these years, we have been accredited by NAC. We are going for the third cycle. In 2022, we actually rechristened our name from Datta Meghe Institute of Medical Sciences to Datta Meghe Institute of Higher Education. There are multiple accreditations which are there in the university in terms of NABH, NABL, and also we are ranked 54th in the NIRF ranking, 24th as a medical school and 11th as a dental school. These are some of the achievements which I'd like to share here. That we are the ARIA ranking for institutions for innovation and achievement actually ranks us at a band excellent. We have an innovation council which is 3-star ranked. We also host the Newgen IDC, that is Innovation Entrepreneurship Center, which is supported by the DST, and we give sub grants every year to incubatees who are selected through a process through the advisory committee. We are also a recognized center for ICMR clinical trials, the Intent Center for Clinical Trial and Education Network. We have a good number of IPR, 75 plus granted patents, 750 plus copyrights across the university, a good number of international and national collaborations, and grants from reputed agencies. So what we have tried to do at DMIHR is we have tried to create an ecosystem or a platform to collaborate or bring together clinicians and engineers to create innovative solutions for unmet clinical needs. For example of which is today, me and Ashutosh talking together. So I'm a doctor and Ashutosh is an engineer, but Ashutosh talks like a doctor and I talk like an engineer. So we have tried to actually bring or have a platform wherein clinicians and engineers can talk with each other and be able to communicate efficiently. So we also try to identify innovators, provide them support in terms of various activities as well as the Fab Lab we have. We try to make ginger groups which would help them break barriers and talk to each other very, very easily without any hesitations, so that they could actually come up with the solutions to unmet clinical needs. We facilitate innovations and encourage translatory research and also support them for acquiring grants. A few of the examples I'll be sharing here. So the major areas in which we are working is bone tissue engineering, medical devices, prosthetic and implants, as well as capacity building through various activities which are there. So this would not have been possible without the collaborations and the support from our major collaborators, that is IIT Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Bangalore, Indian Institute of Public Health, Gandhinagar, VNIT Nagpur, IIIT Nagpur, as well as the industrial partners who are always supporting us in the various advanced various projects and providing the facilities to us where we lack our expertise. So that has led to various projects which are there. So I'll be just showcasing some of the major projects, joint translatory research projects with our collaborative partners, which actually have touched many patients and have a translatory component to it. I'll just start with the first one. This is a project which we are doing along with Professor Dhara from IIT Kharagpur. It is basically development of a customized bioactive porous titanium implant with improved tissue integration and antenized septic loosening of orthopedic applications. This project is supported by DRDO. Now, the beauty of it here is we actually are doing a trial for this, for placing these cranial buttons which have a porous part titanium to that. Basically, if you want to print porous titanium, you have to go with a DMLS printing. But Professor Dhara has actually come up with an innovative solution for casting porous titanium. The advantage here is that the cost of the implant becomes very, very low, and we could actually have these implants stock in place. So here are some of the examples or cases out of the 15 cases we have planned. If you have already completed, and could see a good amount of success in terms of the clinical outcomes for this. We are tracking these patients for the osseointegration of these implants and how for a long-term follow-up in all these cases. So for the next few slides, I'll request Dr. Ashutosh to tell us about this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Punit and Professor Satyanarayan and Dr. KTV Reddy for giving us a chance to elaborate or showcase our research that we are doing. The next project which we are going to discuss is about evaluating the clinical efficacy of indigenously produced 3D printed patient-specific cranial prosthesis. So this project we are doing in association with Professor Vikramjit Basu from IISc Bangalore. So in decompressive cranioplasty, what generally people are doing, they are going with the metallic prosthesis that is made up of the titanium. So putting titanium inside the body, mostly it will get rejected due to metallosis and some other reasons. So Professor Basu tried to identify or give us some cost-effective solution, a novel solution to fabricate cost-effective cranioplasty stent, and he has developed this process. So process basically include taking a CT scan and reconstructing a CAD model from that CT scan, and then printing that mold by using the 3D printer. Initially, we are using the binder jet printer, but eventually, as again the binder jet printer is not so much cost-effective solution, we optimize the property and we are able to modify, we are able to print this cranial mold by using our normal FDM printer also, which is nowadays available in most of the good tertiary care hospitals also. So by using printing this 3D printed flap, we can so by printing such kind of 3D printed mold, we can mold the PMMA flap on that mold by using a sprinkler method or dow method. Once that flap has been fabricated with the sterilization, which generally we are following the ETO sterilization, the cranioplasty can be done to improve the aesthetic look of the patient. So we already did 10 patient clinical trial for academic clinical trial for this projects. Some of them we are going to show up here. So this is the one of the patient which is recruited, which has the left fronted decompressive craniotomy, and we have fabricated the flap and we have put that flap inside the cranial. And there are some post-op photos which has been shown here. Second patient has the decompressive craniotomy on right side, and we have fabricated the flap. Eventually, you can see that in one photos there are some kind of intraoperative modification we need to do, that we need to cut the flap from some side because the flap which we have fabricated are somehow oversized. So it is not expected when we are doing using the 3D printing, or we are using some high-end technology, but we found that kind of thing, and then we try to identify why this kind of cases has been happened. So I will give the reason for this in upcoming slides also. This is a third patient in which we have the DC in left side. So we have the perfect fitting in this patient, and this is the fourth patient in which we have the DC on the right side, decompressive craniotomy on the right side. So eventually we found that when we are doing the 10 patient, out of that 2 and 3 patient, we need to modify the stent which we are fabricating intraoperatively. So the reason we are trying to identify it is basically due to the bone regeneration, bone remodeling, which is going to happen in between the decompressive craniotomy and cranioplasty. So the rate of bone remodeling we need to identify, and this is happened because we started this study in January 2020, and immediately from the March there is a pandemic, and due to that most of the patient are got stuck, and we are not operated the patient during the pandemic situation. So the CT scan which we have before the cranioplasty is from almost 1.5 year old, and during that time period the bone get remodeled, and that's why the flap which we fabricated is somehow on higher side, and which need to be modified. So we try to quantify what kind of mold get remodeled, and then by using the superimposition of two CT scan, that is pre and post of cranioplasty, we are able to quantify the amount of bone get remodeled, and what is the behavior of bone remodeling in cranial patient. So for the patient with the younger age, we found that with the younger age and with minimum time durations, there will be there is good amount of bone remodeling is happened, and it's vice versa. So we quantify exactly the amount which is not yet been reported in any of the journal for the cranioplasty itself. So next project. So that's why with this study, we recommended that the time duration between the cranioplasty and the decompressive craniotomy should be 1 month enough. So if there is only gap between of 1 month and the CT scan has been obtained just 1 month before the cranioplasty, we will get the perfect fit for the stent which we are going to fabricate. Second project is about development of acetabular mold. So this project, we can say it is only a outcome of the discussion which we had with the doctor during the lunchtime. So Dr. Aditya Kekatpuri is orthopedic surgeon. He used to come to our R&D center. We have to take a lunch together. So we are discussing 3-4 meetings are different projects. And one day we come up with this idea. Why not to use the 3D printing to manufacture a mold that can be used as a die or a mold to manufacture the acetabular mold, which can be used in between as a transient implant. So basically what the problem he has given during the lunchtime and during the discussion is that when the patient is operated for the hip implant, so after 10 to 12 years, there will be the biofilm formation or implant get failure. So in that conditions, what they have to do, they have to remove the implant. They need to give some transient implant for 2-3 months. And after that, they need to again operate that patient with the metallic implant or hip implant condition. So during the transient conditions, clinicians are basically fabricating such kind of implant by their hand, which is not having good accuracy in terms of the geometry, we can say, and which will result the longer stay for patient on a bed. So what we did, we identified the different size of acetabular mold. We fabricated 21 different size of acetabular mold as shown in first figure here. Then we printed that mold, and on that mold they are putting the bone cement, which get articulated with the stent which has taken from the patient's patient previous implant. They articulate it, and they will whatever the mold PMMA or bone cement acetabular has been fabricated by using our mold. They place it inside the patient's body. The good outcome of this, we did only one case with this kind of study, and the good outcome, the patient is able to walk after the 3 day of the surgery. So we eventually, we can say that it is a good example what your doctor, if your doctor and engineer can discuss only on normal coffee table, what they can find out the solution to the simple complicated problem which they are facing. So this is one project that we did. Next project which we are doing is about, we started in almost 2017 or 18. It is about customized 3D printed surgical guide and customized 3D printed bone graft. So this project was a clinical case has been done in performed in 2018 almost. So this project is in collaboration with Professor A.M. Kothe, who is from VNIT Nagpur. So this basically his team has fabricated this customized surgical guide for mandibular tumor resections. The clinicians from our college institute has used this customized surgical guide for tumor resections in mandible, and they placed a 3D printed hydroxyapatite and tricalcium phosphate fabricated scaffold in this mandible. So we follow up this patient, and we found that we have the perfect osteointegration in between the implant and the in between the host tissue and the scaffold which we have printed. And in color Doppler, we found that there is a formulation of blood vessels near to the scaffold area, which means we can conclude that the surgery is successful in terms of the bone regeneration. So next project is about it's an adjustable surgical osteotomy guide for accurate mandibular tumor resection. In 2018, when we did the case study of which has been shown in previous slide, Dr. Sandeep Dahake is basically a student of Professor Kothe. He did his PhD on the same topic, and he did number of clinical cases in that. So every time when we are going with the customized surgical time, we need to sit with the clinicians, we need to take his time, we need to design the implant, and after that we need to print the implant, which is something time consuming. So he has come up with the idea, why not to have the generalized surgical guide solutions. So he produces a generalized surgical guide in which we need to access the surgical guide on 3D printed disease model of the mandible, which can be obtained from the CT scan. Once it is fixed as shown in step 2, it can be used to the cutting edge guide can be placed on this lever, and it can be cutted on the accurate mandibular tumor resection can be happen as shown in step 3 and step 4 and step 5. Once the tumor has been resected, a patient specific implant can be used to fill this gap. So he proposed this idea to in BIRAC BIC, and he has received the BIRAC BIC grant for this, and our institute is supporting him to from the ideation or problem identification of this problem. So currently he has started his own company which is focusing on development of customized surgical development of generalized surgical guide for the mandibular tumor resection and different tumor resections. So another project with the same Dr. Sandeep Dahake which we are doing is about designing of the surgical guide for the fibula flap surgery. So in initial conditions when we are resecting the tumor, we need to go with the patient specific implant. The availability of patient specific implant in metal itself is a question for maxillofacial surgeon, and most of the time it will get untreated. So second option is to have the fibula cut the fibula in the proper form of the mandible and place it as a mandible. The process of doing that is something tedious because doctor has to operate the mandible itself, he has to operate the fibula itself. So a single Dr. Sandeep Dahake has basically proposed a single surgical guide which can be used for molding this fibula in the form of the mandible as shown in this figure. So we need to place that surgical guide, we need to cut the tumor. Then after cutting the tumor, we can make just remove this surgical guide in the form of straight line, and we can place on the fibula. We can cut the fibula so it can be molded in the shape of the mandible. So he has produced the metallic surgical guide, which is reusable, which is a cost-effective solution for this. And only the requirement is of the 3D printed part for that disease model. So he is virtually incubated in our incubation center, and he has been supported by the DST Newgen IDC grant, Nidhi Prayan grant, and he has received an NRDC grant of approximately 90 lakh for the development of this project. The next project which we are doing again with Professor Basu from IISc is about the development of functional bioic for osteochondral tissue regeneration. Just 1 week back, we have received the fund for this this project from SERB Research Grant. So in this project, what we are proposing is about the development of scaffold which is capable of generating the chondrocytes along with the osteocytes. So it is basically the process which we are following following is about layer specific bioink formulation, which consists of 3 different layers. First layer is of silk fibrin, middle layer is of carboxymethyl cellulose, and next layer is of gelatin methacrylic. So by integrating the mesenchymal stem cell, we can formulate the bioink, which can be again printed by optimizing the different different characterization or optimizing the printability of that bioink. Then it can be printed with the 3D printers, followed by the biological and physical evaluations. And after that, we can go with the in vitro preclinical evaluation and a pilot study on on 1 or 2 patients. So we have just proposed this area, and we are in process of exploring this area with the fund supported by the CRG grant. And one more project which we are received along with Professor Shantanu Dhara is funded by the ICMR. It is basically the development of skeleton tissue towards the customized phalanges reconstruction by using tissue regeneration. So we have just started this. So how the patient with the phalanges injury, how we could develop or regenerate phalanges by himself. So this project is based on that, and we are just started this project and starting of this project. So these are the some projects which I am going to explain, and for the rest of the project, I request Dr. Punit to take the presentation ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ashutosh. So I'll request if there are any questions, you can use the chat box to put the questions in. I'll continue with the presentation here. This is one of the projects which actually is very important in terms of prosthetic rehabilitation of patients. Now, we actually did this project along with Anatomist 3D. They are a 3D printing company based out of Maharashtra. And we actually tried to overcome the shortcomings of the traditional processes, wherein they had to take an impression and then have a wax up. Then they do shade matching, and the mold is made out of, say, gypsum. And the mold is lost every time you, say, try to make a prosthesis. So we tried to actually convert it into a fully digital process, wherein we 3D scanned the part which required prosthesis. And using a completely digital flow, we actually made a 3D printed molds, which had the negative part as the prosthesis. We use silicone to pour the prosthesis, and the advantage here is that the time required is less. First, second, the accuracy of the prosthesis is very high because of the complete digital workflow. And third is that we could have multiple prostheses coming out of the same mold, so that we could give 2 or 3 prostheses for the patient at almost the same cost. So this method we have used for other prosthetics like an ear prosthesis, and we have found good success in this kind of method. One of the limitations which we found this is the second patient wherein we did an eye prosthesis where there was a defect in the eye. Same thing, the 3D scanning of the patient was done, and through that a mold was prepared and eye prosthesis was delivered. One of the limitations which we found during this project was that we required a very high quality 3D scanner for getting these kind of images. So one of our collaborators, Mr. Balaji, he actually suggested, why can't we use photogrammetric approach? And we did a short study to identify how photogrammetics can be used to get a similar kind of 3D scan of the part in terms of how to make prosthesis. So we actually used 3 different levels of prosthetic molds which were there, and we used multiple photographs from various angles as depicted by these pyramids. So we did a study wherein we also did a 3D scan of that mold and got a 3D model for that mold, or the plaster cast which is there, and we actually compared both scans virtually in terms of what are the details and how replicable is the method of photogrammetics. We also use different sensors. We say, for example, a DSLR with 3090 pictures with 60 pictures or 30 pictures, as well as we used mobile cameras also. And we found that we had a good percentage of accuracy in terms of both the image of the CT as well as the image we got from photogrammetry. So this is based on this, we could actually use the method of photogrammetric model generation to actually 3D scan parts, even human parts, to get a good amount of reliability in terms of the details which are received, which we have on the model. And this can actually replace the requirement of a high-end 3D scanner, which might be costly, as well as the availability may be an issue. So this model, through this photogrammetric model, we could actually use get a good or acceptable amount of accuracy to fabricate prosthesis. Now, this is a very important project which was supported by US aid, and it actually is a mobile app which is there, and it basically is used for diagnosis of patient's heart rate variability, SpO2, using a 30-second video which this device takes. As you could see in the videos, which is you actually have to select an area of region of interest, and through this region of interest, the system calculates the patient's heart rate variability, respiratory rate variability, and the SpO2. So we have tested this software or mobile software on 750 plus pregnant women as well as 300 plus neonates, and we were found to have that the results are fairly accurate in controlled settings. We are still working on how to actually use it in non-controlled settings or external or open areas wherein the noises are much more. So that kind of we still have a good amount of accuracy in terms of doing the analysis on patients which are in controlled environment. Now, this is one more project which is in terms of cold plasma disinfection ionozer, and it was developed by Mr. Ajinkya Kotawar. He is one of the incubators at our center, and basically this module can be used for a small room for disinfection, as it uses cold plasma for disinfection, and they actually done a number of microbiological studies to identify how much amount of disinfection it was occurring. And the studies actually showed that there was a significant reduction in number of colonies, with a reduction at the tune of 99.998%. So this technology, if scaled up, can be also used in modules like HVACs and other filtration systems or air handling units to actually reduce the amount of contamination which goes through even after using HEPA filters and so on and so forth. This is one project which actually is very close to us, wherein one of our faculty, he actually got into full-time entrepreneurship and started his own startup. And he actually is proposed a solution for obstructive sleep apnea patients. Now, these patients are required, the patients with high obstructive sleep apnea are required to have devices like the CPAP or BiPAP, which maintained positive pressure to maintain the airway. But these devices are powered and have to be, say, plugged on the whole time when the patient is sleeping also. So the advantage of this new device, or it is more like say denture, is that it is passive, means it does not require any kind of power input or something, and the patient can wear it like a denture and sleep over it. So that the beauty here is that it has a passage inbuilt in the denture, which actually makes keeps the airway patent at all times, even during sleeping. So we've done certain testing in mannequins, and we are currently in the process of getting a test manufacturing license to go for a full-blown clinical trial. This actually has also received fund from Nidhi Prayas, Newgen IDC, as well as they have received recently the startup seed fund scheme. They have received a grant of over 20 lakhs to actually scale this product up. This is again a product which was developed by a startup, Atman Techno Innovations. Mr. Abhijit Bhagat and Professor Dr. Ashutosh are the co-founders here. And this is very important in terms of detecting the endotracheal tube blockages. Now, when the patients are intubated or on ventilators, the staff has to constantly go and do suction because the endotracheal tube gets blocked because of the secretions in the windpipe. So this device just sits in between the endotracheal tube opening and the mechanical ventilator, and has a sensor which actually determines what amount of blockage has occurred, and it actually gives different kind of audio and visual outputs depending on the amount of blockage which is there in the endotracheal tube. So we have done test manufacturing license they have received, and they have done a clinical trial wherein 5 patients were monitored, and they could actually identify the exact amount of endotracheal tube blockages during the course of wherein the patient was ventilated using a ventilator. This is again a startup which was a spin-off, which they have received a patent grant, and it is basically a portable handheld colposcope, and it can be used as a point-of-care device for diagnosis and reporting of cervical lesions. So visualization of cervix is very, very important in many cases, and the traditional colposcopes which are there are either expensive and they require a good amount of setup to get a proper image. Now, this basically is an handheld device which use the darkroom technology or darkroom cone, which and has a specific kind of illumination for 4-sided illumination in front of the darkroom, which has a mobile device attached. And using this mobile device and their proprietary software, which is AI enabled, they could actually capture the images of the cervix and at various different areas, and they could actually screen the cervix for various pathologies. And using that AI, the screening would also support staff to identify any pathologies if they are there and refer the patient to a higher center. The next project is related to smart neonatal incubator, and this actually has been supported by the device development program of Department of Science and Technology. Currently, there is no incubator which would be smart enough to determine the patient's heart rate variability, respiratory rate variability, as well as SpO2 without contacting the patient. Also determining the patient's temperature as well as what is the status of the bilirubin or jaundice in the patient. Now, this smart incubator, basically we are using contactless sensors like cameras to identify all these parameters in patients using feature extraction and image processing technique. And through this, we could actually estimate the bilirubin of the patient real time once this device is developed. So it would be a portable kind of a device which would have a backpack design, and it could be plugged in anywhere and it could be carried anywhere, and it would monitor and maybe using IoT send these data to a higher center where these newborns can be monitored for their health through this incubator. Finally, coming to one of the very ambitious projects, which is done by one of our UG student, Dr. Jeril. He is a final year MBBS student now, and he actually has proposed a cigarette which looks and feels like a cigarette, but it does not have the harmful effects. It's more like a herbal cigarette, but it has the effect or the gratification which a normal cigarette smoker would have. We have recently filed a patent for this, and we are hoping to have this product out very soon. And there are multiple advantages which are there in terms of using this cigarette over the traditional cigarette. So those were a few of the major projects which we just like to showcase here for the audience. We are also doing multiple activities like just a glimpse of our facilities. So we are doing actually multiple events like this conference which recently had, wherein many dignitaries were here for discussing the topic of techno health education. Here we also have conducted various activities for students. So this was one of the workshops which was conducted on enhancing 3D competencies for medical scholars, wherein all the participants were postgraduate students, and they were taught about what are the intricacies of 3D printing, 3D, how to make a 3D model, and so on and so forth. And the outcome here was that the doctors or the postgraduate residents were able to express and visualize what they had in their mind, because doctors per se are not trained in terms of 3D printing or 3D modeling. But this workshop was a 5-day workshop, extensive workshop, wherein they actually had hands-on on how to make 3D models and how to actually convert them and print them as a 3D printing. And they actually opened up more horizons for those clinicians to visualize their imaginations and bring them front as a 3D CAD model. We also are happy to share that we have the IBSC, the Indian Biomedical Skill Consortium. We are part of it. We have a Center of Excellence, and we recently conducted a level 1 training program for the critical care equipment management. There are 7 levels here, and basically these are all skill courses for students. So we had students from our institute as well as outside our institutes. The students were from varied backgrounds like biomedical engineering to OT technicians to other allied courses. And they were able to identify, understand how to maintain critical care equipment and what are the basic preventive maintenance which are required for these these courses. So it was a 1-week course, about 40 hours course. So there are other activities also. There are the glimpses of various visitors to our institute. Professor Kaushik from ISC Bangalore, Mr. Ping Shupodar was here. He was of very immense help for understanding and taking our research ahead. Professor Kuthe, always helpful and always forthcoming in terms of helping us out. Professor Rupesh Ghayar from IIT Mumbai, Professor Dhara, Dr. Ashish. All these partners and collaborators basically are helping us in taking these projects to a newer level and newer support. And we actually are thankful to all of them for supporting us and helping us translate the research into from the bench to bedside. We are also fortunate enough to interact with Professor Anil Kapodkar at VNIT Nagpur. He was there to inaugurate for the Betic Center inauguration. Professor Patwardhan, he was here for the conclave. Mr. Sumant was here. Dr. Anil Kumar from Shri Jitra, he was here. He's also supporting us in terms of how we can go for the CDSCO approvals as well as the regulatory approvals for the various devices which are being developed. And also I'd like to share that we are trying to establish a CDSCO. We are establishing a CDSCO help desk as well as a desk for health technology assessment of medical devices at our campus. So these are various activities which were done, and I'd like to say also feel very humbled for the funders or the funding agencies who have been supportive of us for providing us fund for many projects which we are doing, and that actually has helped us to translate these projects further. So that's all from my side. So if there are any questions.
We also have Group Captain Sony.
Yeah.
Are you there, sir? Sir, please continue. Satyanarayan, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks both Dr. Punit and also Dr. Ashutosh for kind of giving us a kind of broader view, I would say, of various activities which straddle between medical sciences of various types, and also especially the way you highlighted by saying that, you know, a medical doctor speaking an engineering language and engineers language and engineers speaking medical language is in some way what is the bottom line of the work that you have been doing and also planning to do ahead. I think it's very, very satisfying, the outcome of your work that actually touches the people on the street and the patients who, especially sometimes without such technologies or alternatives, they live a life which is far from of quality. So obviously we are very happy to witness such a nice work, and also your collaborations with very prominent institutions and so on. And we wish great luck and a great success in future. But okay, I mean, that's not still the concluding lines. I would like first to invite the audience for any questions that they have to both the speakers and also to Dr. Qazi. Any questions from Zoom or YouTube audience for the speakers?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Shilpa Malik from Bioscan Research. Yes, hello, sir. So first of all, as you said, like, it was really great to witness the kind of work, that is going on inside a research institution. As an industry, or as like a technologically driven company, we always strive for new ideas that have been clinically validated for us to, take it forward or commercialize. And I was very happy and satisfying, I must say, to see some of the projects that we would like to explore. So maybe with Dr. Zar, we would really like to see how we can, take up something and probably like develop it into a product from clinical validation stage. So if there is like a standard process or how we can connect, I mean, it would be like, if you can throw some light on that, or maybe if we can connect post this session, that would be great.
Yeah, we could definitely connect post session and take this forward. So we actually are trying to have a help desk which would actually support the development of medical devices, because as you know, the development of medical devices has a good number of regulatory hurdles, I would say, because the amount of information available, and there are many gray areas in terms of how to go forward, which forms to fill, what are the basic requirements, so and so forth. So we are trying to actually through this process of getting test manufacturing license to the manufacturing license and CDSCO approval. So we are trying to have a help desk kind of thing which would help the potential innovators, as well as people who are already working in the early stages of early TRL stages, to understand what are the regulatory requirements which they could actually think of while development of their product, so that it does not become a hurdle later on. So that is one area where we are definitely working on, and we currently are in process of taking approvals, CDSCO approvals of 10 devices which are developed through various collaborative projects at our center. And definitely we can connect offline and understand more. We have been you have been interacting with us previously also, and it's actually a great learning for us also in that terms. Yes,
likewise.
And also we have group captain Soni. I wanted him to introduce to Satyanarayan sir. So he was also at our campus, and I would like group captain to say something on this. Thank you.
Sure.
Over to group captain Soni. Sir, can you hear us? Group captain Soni. He's there.
I think
he's visible. Probably he can't Captains, group
his
captain, can you hear us?
His audio is not connected, sir.
Oh,
Okay.
We
Yeah,
can-
nevertheless, we'll get back. So by the time, maybe if there are any other questions from audience.
Just
From-
one, I have a technical question, if I may ask. I'm just curious because
please.
there was a very nice project I saw on photogrammetry model making, which was, which is like kind of accurate to a 3D scanner. So I wanted to understand, like, have you also already utilized any AI or machine learning for that, or till this time it's been only images that have been like, deployed?
So currently we actually have all those images. We've tried to identify what is the optimal number of images which could give us a good 3D model, as well as what are the angles there. And we've currently not employed AI as of today. Actually, Ashutosh can tell more about it. So,
Just one, I have a technical question, if I may ask. I'm just curious because there was a very nice project I saw on photogrammetry model making, which was, which is like kind of accurate to a 3D scanner. So I wanted to understand, like, have you also already utilized any AI or machine learning for that, or till this time it's been only images that have been like, deployed?
So currently we actually have all those images.
Yeah, so I would like to take that discussion ahead. At presently, our focus mainly is on developing the SOPs for photogrammetic. Our focus is not on development of algorithm for stitching the photographs and all. There are good amount of softwares are already available which can do that, perform that purposes. So at presently, what we are looking is about the practicability of that software and how it could translate from bedside to the bedside. And that's why we are doing the in vitro testing based on stone model. Right now, the extension of that, what we are doing is about the development of the cranioplasty stain by using the photogrammetry. So in previous project which we showed, which I explained, that we found the bone remodeling is basic cause for the intraoperative adjustment of the stents, which we did a 10-patient trial on that. So it is recommended, the outcome of that study is recommendation that the time gap between the DC and the cranioplasty should not be more than the 1 month. But exposing the patient for only for the for getting that accurate CT scan to is not recommendable by the ethical committee. It's not that much ethical to recommend. So what should be the alternate solution? And that's why we started finding the practicability or application of photogrammetry by using that same method, same SOPs, how we could get the virtual image of the cranioplasty, disease cranioplasty patients. So once we have the virtual model of that, by using some CAD tools, we can formulate, we can fabricate the stent of that. So our focus is not, but that is a good idea that if we can enter in the AI and we can stitch.
Yeah, we can actually
Stitch
have
the images, yeah.
So we can have a say parametric model which could actually import images and it would give out a 3D model kind of a thing. It would definitely be a very, very good thing. It could potentially actually means replace using high quality 3D scanners for you.
3D scanners, definitely. I mean, I felt that you've already attained like a kind of accuracy, and just introducing this could potentially enhance the accuracy as such without adding much cost to it. But definitely, I think where you've reached is I think the core part. So that has been done, and it's great.
Yeah,
thank you for answering.
Thank you. So I think
group captain.
yeah, Captain Sony wanted to. Yes, so you are mute.
Sure.
Unmute you, so no mentions. Just.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening to all. I mean, I'm not a doctor. Let me introduce myself. I'm an aviation engineer, and I'm a soldier, basically, Group Captain Sony. So I had met Dr. Zahir, and I was looking at those options in form of battle injuries which the soldiers suffer, wherein you have a head injury, you have these are typical combat injuries which I had discussed with Dr. Zahir and Dr. Punit, wherein you have to do maybe a corneal implant or use 3D printer prosthetics So
Mhm.
these are what I was looking at, and I have given him some of my requirements, which are not a typical, which a trauma patient suffers. It's a typical combat injury a soldier suffers due to the bomb and due to the bullet, etc. Wherein the bone splinters up, and you have, I don't know your medical terminology exactly, but you would understand once you to Dr. Zahir. So those 3D printing, so these are all causing a lot of stigma to a soldier, disabled soldiers especially. And this field of 3D printing, bioprinting, bioinnovation, that would go a long way in making these disabled soldiers a productive workforce.
Yes, yes.
So that's the little bit, and it was quite an interesting, though bit French for me. And thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to attend your gathering. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our collaborative partners have started working, and one of the front runners is Shilpa Malik herself. And
Oh, I see.
yeah. So our collaborative partners started working on your thoughts, sir, and hope we'll revert back to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. We also have Professor Kaushik from IIC Bangalore. Kaushik, sir, are you there?
Yes, are you able to hear me? Actually,
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to hear your voice, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
Let's just see if I'm having some trouble with the video, but let me just speak on the audio here. So we've been, trying to work with the DMI team for the last few months, and I think the big thing has been our intent of taking some of our biomaterials technologies to the clinical sort of setting. And while as an academic lab, we've been looking at a variety of biomaterials technologies in our own lab, especially proof of concept. But I think what has been lacking so far is to demonstrate the clinical utility. And Dr. Punit and Dr. Kazi and Dr. Ashutosh and all the other team members, we're exploring a variety of, I would say, opportunities here. And I think already identified a few which months to share more, definitive results of preclinical and clinical testing of some of our technologies, which primarily will focus on the tissue engineering research and, particularly for bone tissue regeneration associated applications. And also have some huge partners on but I think there are several opportunities here, and I look forward to building a strong collaboration, focusing on the clinical outcomes for our work.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that nice comment. So if there are no other questions, I want to ask one general question. Of course, it's not a technical one.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear. Sir.
Okay, so the thing is, of course, the basic development in terms of, in this case, it's a medical field, but also bringing these devices to a level they are usable, they are affordable, they are, easily, marketable, whatever. But now between these two stages, as you also mentioned some time ago, there are lots of, obviously, because this is connected with something to do with humans, and some are going to become, not some, most of it, I think, going to become part of human bodies directly, not even aiding, their disabilities or whatever. But so how, there must be a lot of governmental regulations and procedures, and how often do you get stuck? You think that it is absolutely a great product and it should actually go at the earliest to the needy people, but there are rules that they prevent, are there such cases? How do you overcome these?
So frankly speaking, sir, we get stuck a lot. And so the life cycle of a product, say suppose you say take any household product or engineering product, the life cycle for it to come to market is very short. You just have to get some basic regulatory approvals done, CE or kind of markings based on the market which you are going, and your product can be in the market in no time. But in terms of medical devices or devices which are say kind of implants and the devices which go in for inside the patient's body, the regulatory approvals required are a lot. And there are specific regulations which are there. We have to follow those, starting from getting a test manufacturing license, which means that you have to get a license to produce a device for testing it in patients. Like for getting into a clinical trial, you have to have a test manufacturing license. And using that license, you will say manufacture a selected number of devices, which would be further used for doing a clinical trial. And based on that, the clinical trial results, they will give you a final manufacturing license. So the loop is that long. So depending on the type of device, they have different say levels. And depending on the level of the device, say for example, there is a different level for a hypodermic needle than as you compare to say heart valve or an implant or something like that. So depending on the severity or say the risk involved in that device, there are regulatory approvals which are required, and the different kind of tests which are to be done at a level or at a particular say level of accreditation. So the labs where we have to be ISO 13485 kind of thing. So it's a long and I say that it's a very tangled loop, I would say, to understand the regulatory part.
Therefore, we are trying to build an ecosystem where a researcher can do research, and the administrative and this accreditation and approvals has to be taken up by the system. So that's what we are trying, and building a team so that they can support the innovator, the researcher, to concentrate more on his research part, and the rest of the activities can be handled by the team who will be supporting him.
So that ecosystem we are trying to develop here, and as I said, that we are setting up this CDISCO help desk. Now, the purpose of this help desk itself is to say support innovators, and especially for people working in medtech innovation or implants or biomaterials, to understand the regulatory requirements and work on them from the start of their project, rather than after you hit a hurdle, then there's no point of digging the well once you are thirsty, something like that. So it's always better to find water before you are thirsty. Yeah.
R&D and business center together.
Yes.
Nice one. Thanks for that answer. I hope, are there any more questions? Otherwise, I still have one, again, a non-technical one, but this is a very, maybe the last one. So I'm sure being in this field, which is obviously very cutting edge, and the extra dimension that comes added to your product vis-a-vis what you mentioned about general product development marketing, is the H factor, which is the human factor. So what you're actually making is something which is, of course, going to alleviate the pain or the disability of a patient, but it will also kind of work counterway in some sense if it is, for example, not suiting well to the body and so on. But what I meant is there must be also many such initiatives or products even maybe also made by manufacturers or institutes abroad. And then some of the richer patients probably are, or hospitals may be importing them at, I assume, at a phenomenal cost compared to what would have costed with you.
Yes.
So are there such examples where your product seem as good, if not better than somewhere else, and costs a fraction of what it takes to import such things? And which should be your main shot in the arm kind of thing to kind of convince either the government or regulatory bodies that, look, I mean, the product that I'm making is exactly same or maybe better than what it is imported, but it costs a fraction of what it is. And this is a real test case where you should kind of, facilitate a much faster kind of approvals and so on? Are there such cases?
Yeah, definitely, sir. There are 3-4 projects which are actually has the potential to be import substitutes. So, for example, the one with the first project which I showed, the cranioplasty buttons, wherein Professor Dara was able to actually manufacture porous titanium using the traditional casting methods. So that could be a very innovative. That is a very innovative product, and that has multiple applications in terms of its use, not only in, say, cranioplasty buttons. That is one of the use cases, but that same technology can be used for other implants which need porous titanium to be there. So that is a very promising product. Then if you see that if we want to have those kind of, say, cranioplasty buttons, there is a foreign company who is producing them. It is not in titanium, it is in a different material, but the availability is very restricted because of the cost which is involved. One. Secondly, the one about the acetabular mold. That is also a product. There's a imported product, a sleeve which is already available. They have a silicone sleeve which is there, use and throw kind of a thing, which can do exactly what we tried to develop, right? But the technology which we applied was very local, and it could be made available for a fraction of the cost which the current thing is. So that is one of the projects which definitely can have a shorter life cycle in terms of translating it into a product, since it is not going inside the patient's body, but it is just in contact of the material which is going into the patient's body. Then the next product is the Cindy-Colpo, that is the colposcope. That is a very important product in terms of visualization of the cervix. And basically the software which we are developing, that can be used by even non-trained persons, so that they can actually go into the rural areas or even in the community and do cervical screening, which is not possible at all right now. And that would actually help in early detection of various conditions which the female patients are, or the patients are being affected, and that could actually bring in people at a very early stage of the disease and help the prognosis of the patient. So these 3-4 there are other devices also, but I'd just like to mention these 3-4 devices here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dr. Punit, I would just like to add, to what you said.
Yes.
There are expedited times in India, during COVID there were many expedited programs that government had launched, but still I think there is a need in India for a program like, if I have to compare with US, the breakthrough designation program. So wherein if an innovation shows that it is affordable with respect to this, then the whole process of marketing and authorization becomes expedited. So I feel that there is a lot of awareness now, and there is a lot of intent in the government to basically cater to medical devices which were initially only focused on drugs. So I feel with that and with our suggestions, probably with people who are working in the ecosystem, we will have more opportunity to ask for expedited devices, regulatory clearances, especially that do not have a high severity, probably in the diagnostic, non-invasive diagnostic space or things like that.
Yeah. So one more point there is that right now the regulatory body which is there, they treat every medical device as a drug, and they have to have the whole paperwork like you are say going for a drug regulatory approval. So there also need of say rationalization in terms of how you get regulatory approvals for medical devices or implants as compared to drugs. So that is one of the, I think, bottlenecks. I feel there it is. The classification of the medical devices should be a bit different from drugs, so that the processes can be more, say, rationalized, or maybe it will also help in reducing the time for requirement of regulatory approvals.
Okay, so I think we had a good, very nice discussion after your talks, and I hope, as all of you felt, that there will be a change of the ecosystem, especially to make these your work reaching to the needy much faster, and also, of course, the sense of satisfaction about the fact that your things work to the fruition faster. Of course, I do have some questions about the material and material development, whether you also, since you use a large number of materials, so there can be a research team which also does, may not be, they may not be medical people, they may not be engineers, but surely looking at, given the fact that you need a certain material, certain type of material for a particular product, there could be people from material science background or somewhere who could kind of help. Maybe such kind of dimension also you can add to your team. I think that could be a suggestion. But overall, I mean, once again, we want to really thank you for taking your time and coming here and talking to us about very exciting work that you have been doing. Rather, I would say at a place where I'm not sure how many people in this country know such a nice work is being done at that corner. I mean, ironically, it is the center of the country, happening close to the center of the country.
Maybe next presentation, we should go to the government of India.
And also, we are very happy that for you and your initiative, and also for your future plans of developing not just a R&D center, but the entire ecosystem that helps people to come together and work towards making a big difference. So on behalf of Asset Colloquium TIFR, once again, I would like to thank both of you. And also as I mentioned in the beginning, Dr. Reddy and Dr. Quasi, who really made this particular colloquium possible. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
I have a small thing, but even though it is a big asset forum, but the number is not that good, what we thought. We thought we'll reach to many people in India, but somehow we missed, but we'll do it if required again one more time.
Of course, these are all available on the YouTube. I hope some more people will be able to.
Yes, we want to reach to the last corner of the mile.
Yeah, but somewhere we need to make a beginning, and maybe this could be one such. So let us hope.
Yes.
We should not be discouraged. We have today.
No, we're not discouraged. No, our people are there to reach anywhere.
Yes.
Whenever you want. So we'll fly immediately if you wanted to come there in Mumbai. No issues.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So thank
Well
you.
begun and full done. No after.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for giving the
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.